Okay, you've made it through the first two body paragraphs. You're on to body paragraph 3. So you've already developed 2 claims. This is your third claim. It's just slightly different in that we need to use that third claim as a rebuttal for a counterclaim. So a counterclaim is a specific claim that the other side would make. So you have to acknowledge that counterclaim, but then you refute it with your rebuttal. And then that rebuttal becomes an opportunity to develop a third claim. Now, it has to be really specific. For instance, let's say that you're arguing that the animals are at fault. To say, as your counterclaim, critics might argue that the pigs are to blame. However, it's clearly the animals. That's not a counterclaim and rebuttal. That's simply the two sides of the argument. It has to be a specific reason. So you could say, critics, they argue that the pigs are to blame because, and then you'd fill that in with the claim. And then you'd use your third claim to refute it. So you have to be very careful in how you construct your counterclaim so that your third claim can work as a rebuttal. So let's take a look at these notes. They're linked right here. This out of the way. Okay, so step 1 would be to go back to your claim research for your third claim and look at your final claim. Step 2 is to think of a counterclaim that the other side might make. You want to be able to make your third claim a rebuttal to that counterclaim. So let's say that we're arguing over whether or not cell phones should be permitted in schools. Now, let's say you want to claim that teachers can actually use cell phones to enhance their lessons and keep students more engaged. What counterclaim can I come up with so that I can use that claim as my rebuttal? For example, if your argument is that students should be allowed to have their cell phones in school, a counterclaim might be that cell phones distract students from the lessons and activities in the classroom. So you can see we're building up this counterclaim that my claim will easily refute, and then it will give me the opportunity to develop that rebuttal, which is my third claim. While critics may say that cell phones distract students from the lessons and activities in the classroom, teachers can actually use cell phones to enhance their lessons and keep students more engaged. So you can see I have a very specific counterclaim, and I have my rebuttal. And then now I can develop this rebuttal by going over the different ways that cell phones can be used to enhance lessons, which will keep students more engaged. So you're just going to apply the same concept to your third claim. You're going to come up with a very specific counterclaim for the other side that your claim 3 could be used in to refute. So just as with your body paragraphs, you have to have an outside source and you have to have text from the novel. That's all the same. But what we want you to do here is to highlight your counterclaim yellow and highlight your rebuttal green. So these two can be in the same sentence or they can be 2 separate sentences. But this should be the first sentence or the first 2 sentences, depending on how you construct it in your paragraph. Definitely make sure that you click on this counterclaim and rebuttal language because it's going to help you set up your sentences. So you could use, well, some critics or supporters, depending on what you're arguing, may argue that. Some critics or supporters assert one criticism of blank is. Some might feel that blank is a problem. A common misconception is good transitions for rebuttals. However, despite these criticisms, on the other hand, although that point is worth consideration, while that might be a valid criticism, the benefit of blank outweighs blank. And so we have all of this language, and then we have additional examples if you need some more examples. There's a number of counterclaims and rebuttals that you can work through, that you can look at as you're trying to construct your own. So when you develop your rebuttal, just as before, introduce your source, cite your source, explain your source. You're now writing this exactly like you wrote claim 1 and claim 2. So you can see we didn't break it down as much as we did the first two, because by now you get the process. You need transitions as always. So here are your sources. Once again, how to embed literary evidence, how to embed informational text evidence, and transitional language. So you're going to construct your counterclaim and rebuttal below. Make sure you color code your counterclaim and rebuttal. If you are having any trouble or just want to run your counterclaim and rebuttal by your teacher, simply reach out, and I know all of us would be happy to take a look and give you feedback before you get too far into this.